Alright, Mason the Brock Henderson here again, and internet is screwing up, so if I don't get this in the Supergirl review out tonight, that's why. And I'm not sure if anybody even cares, but it pisses me off. So, but this is Fargo, episode 3 of the second season, and man, I get really excited about this show every time it comes on because you never know what's going to happen next. You never know what plot twists are coming. You don't know if there's going to be any action or if it's just going to be more interesting story. And it's one of the few shows that can get away with not having a whole lot of action, but still really getting you sucked in because the story is so interesting. And so I really do enjoy the show. And let me just say before I forget, the music in the show is incredible. I mean, just the first season really got me hooked as far as music. Like there was one or two episodes where they were just playing this simple music, nothing really fancy, and then when they showed like the title Fargo, after the whole this is a true story, out of respect for the dead, everything's been told, all that stuff that Fargo does. It would say this is, and then just this orchestra would just rising, violins, cellos, all that stuff, and it just was so intense and just Fargo. And man, it got me excited for that episode. I was like, I want to see what's gonna happen. And this one, I mean, it hasn't done the whole orchestra thing, but it's still got very interesting music in it. The way they start off this episode has just got like this kind of little, okay, it's. I love how they're doing the cinematography this time. They've got like the different panels like popping up. It shows this person doing one thing, this person doing another thing. Kind of swaps the panels a little bit. I love how they're doing it, and it's got this little catchy tune to it. And that's how it's starting. It's kind of doing a little bit of foreshadowing, showing what's coming. I think. I didn't really pay too much attention, but now I wish I did, because I remember seeing like a couple things that later in the episode I'm like, didn't I see that earlier at the beginning? That's kind of interesting. So anyway, there's a lot to talk about in this episode, and it's hard to go through it all. So I'm just going to try to stick to the main plot points, and I'm trying to do it character by character because each character has its own main plot point. And of course, the one that I love the most right now is Lou Silverson. He's such a simple. He seems like such a simple, just cop who wants to do his job. He loves his job. He wants to do the right job. He doesn't want to mess up. He doesn't want to just, whatever. He really wants to see every case through. You can tell. But he got a couple scenes in this one that just really speak to how much of a kind of unsuspected badass he is. The first one, it starts off with him going to North Dakota to kind of see where this judge, all the stuff that happened. Obviously, the judge was the main point in all the murders that happened. And so he goes to North Dakota to see the judge's chambers, kind of find out, what could happen with her. And as he's there, he meets this. I wasn't really sure who the guy was. I think he was maybe just a North Dakota cop, possibly. But he talks with him a bit, tells him that they found out, that the younger brother, Rye, was the one who shot the gun, and the guy who knows the Gerhardt family, and he's like, I'm not saying that this is bad, but you might want your own print on there. And that in itself just kind of speaks to this family is known, and they're not to be trifled with. And so, the guy goes in for forensics, the North Dakota cop, and as they're in there, the typewriter salesman that Rye was working with comes, and Lou is just over there at the water fountain, and he sees him kind of like, I'm gonna knock, no I'm not. And just, going back and forth, and then as the door opens, he kind of walks away. And so Lou and the cop go talk to, I want to say his name was Brian Schmidt, but they go and talk to Skip, the typewriter salesman, and kind of find out that he needed the judge to help him out of these back taxes. And of course, Lou's suspicious. He's like, this guy seems a little squirrely. And Schmidt, the cop, is just like, the judge has so many cases that we can't go digging through all of them. And so it's kind of this thing in Fargo where the main characters are smart and they see through bullcrap like that, and then the rest of the cops are just like, he's just a little nervous. He's like several other people. He's not the only suspect. We don't have to talk to him. He's just like, why not? Like, he was acting suspicious. Go talk to him again. But no, most of them are stupid. But anyway, they finally decide. Lou decides to go with the Schmidt guy to the Gerhardt family ranch, and I'll get to their story in just a second. But I love getting to see kind of Lou. He's in a different territory now because he's out of Minnesota, and they kind of they respect the law. They don't just mess around with the law. If he says something, they do it. And he gets here, and they're like, you need to give us your guns before you go talk to to the head honcho, to the mother here. And of course, Brian Schmidt, he knows about the Gerhardt family. Just gnat in my face. He just takes out his gun, just hands it to him. Here you go. And Lou's like, am I the only one who understands what law enforcement means? And it's just, I love getting to see reactions of, what is this? Like, this isn't how I do stuff. This isn't how I operate. When I say something, you do it. I am a cop. You are just a civilian. And so I love getting to see his reaction to that. And of course, the head of the family, blanket on her name. I'm going to call her Mother Gerhardt because she is the mother to all the kids that are vying for power here. But she comes out of the house, and Lou tells her that Rye's fingerprints were found on the gun that killed this judge, and of course she's like, he didn't kill anybody. You need to leave right now. And then Dodd, Jeffrey Donovan's character from the guy from Burn Notice, he pulls up, and he and Lou just have this stare down that Lou's in the middle of this family's ranch. They have several guys with guns right there, and Dodd comes up and he's like, Schmidt is just like, well, they found Rye's gun with fingerprints on it. And Dodd goes over to him, he's like, he didn't shoot nobody. And Lou just, not a care in the world, well, I'm the one that found the gun, so maybe you're dancing with the wrong girl. And just lets him have it. And of course, Dodd, just like, not used to being talked to like this, goes up to him, he's like, you want to repeat that? Like, I'm the one that found the gun, so maybe you should be asking me the questions. And just, they have this intense stare down that you're like, is stuff about to happen? Is stuff about to go down? What's going to happen? And, it's one of those moments where after it's over and after, Dodd eventually goes inside, the Mother Gerhardt is like, you men need to leave right now. And all of that, it just dissipates. You're like, I didn't even realize I was holding my breath. Like, it was just, it's this intense kind of dreading feeling like this could go wrong any second now. And like, this part of you deep down that knows, first of all, Lou is in the first season of Fargo, which is in the future, so he's not going to die, but at the same time, like, you feel like something could go very wrong very fast, and people could die, and you're just like, oh my god, what's about to happen? I can't watch, but I have to. Oh, okay. Everything's okay. We're good. So I love how they just build that intensity with nothing but just these, they've got the music. Like I said, the music just plays into that intensity, and the actors are so good at just nothing but just staring. And you can make a Twilight joke about staring if you want, but Twilight stares do not compare to just how well they stare each other down and really build the intensity with no words at all. So that's just, it was really good. And then finally, Lou's final scene that really, he has one final scene with, his wife and his father-in-law, where they're eating at the very end. But the other scene that really got me to enjoy Lou's character is they go, he goes with Schmidt back to where they met at the courthouse, and he decides he wants to check out the typewriter guy again. And of course Schmidt's like, no, I think I'm gonna go, because you can just tell this guy has no backbone at all. Like, he really is scared of this family and what they can do, and the fact that now you've got this mafia coming out of Kansas City, and you've got all these people going at it, and things are about to get really bad. And this guy doesn't want any part of it. But of course, Lou, he wants to do his job. He's a good guy. He's generally a good cop. And so he goes to the typewriter store. The guy's obviously not there, but the mafia from Kansas City is there. And he learned Mike Milligan, I think, is the black guy, and then the two guys that are with him are the Kitchen brothers. He learned that from Hank at the end of the last episode, where Hank kind of had a little confrontation with them. And so he runs into them there. They're like trying to find out where, the guy's name is Skip. They're trying to find out where he is. And, Lou instantly pulls his gun as soon as he sees the guy with the shotgun. The other Kitchen brother grabs his shotgun. And so, it's just like it's like, Lou, 2 shotguns to your pistol. Come on, man. But he holds his ground. No, where some cops would be like, shaking and like, you need to leave right now. He's just firm, pointing it at Mike Milligan, just like, trying to kind of threaten him out of there. Trying to make sure he's not the one that ends up dead. And just, once again, cracking jokes in the best way possible. Because he's like, I was hoping maybe you guys would know where Skip is, the owner of the store. And, of course, Mike's like, well, we're looking for him too. Why don't you tell us where he is? Well, I think I saw him at your mother's house, sneaking in the back door. And you're just like, dude, they've got 2 shotguns pointed at you. What are you doing? But he doesn't care. He doesn't give a crap because he's a cop, because he's the good guy, and he's going to get the bad guys. And that's just, it's part of his character. He's just resilient. He will not be threatened. He will not be, he will not be backed down from anything. It doesn't matter what the odds are. He's going to take it, and he's going to give it right back. And just that scene, once again, you're just like, this could go really bad any second now. And that's what I really enjoy. Okay, here's the thing. It's interesting because I haven't even seen Gotham yet. But one of the biggest problems with Gotham is that it's hard for them to build intensity, because Jim's not going to die, Alfred's not going to die, Bruce isn't going to die, the Penguin's not going to die. And so these scenes that are supposed to be very intense end up not being that intense because, he's not going to die. But this show just makes you forget that Lou's not going to die. Because in that moment, you're sitting there like, oh, dude, what are you doing? Like, he puts himself in these situations, and you're just, in that instance, you're just like, dude, you're going to die. You got 2 shotguns pointed at you. And it doesn't even matter to the fact that he doesn't die, because things can still go wrong. His family can still be threatened. His father-in-law can still be threatened. He could get seriously injured. Like, anything could go wrong. And it just, all of that comes together in that moment, and just all this intensity. And it's one of the best things about this show right now, is that so much intensity with a guy that is going to survive. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he lives, because guess what? It's still going to be intense. So that's Lou's story, and probably the best part about this episode. Not that the other parts aren't good too, but It's just really, it stands out from everything else. Um, so next I'll talk about the Gerhardt family. Um, they kind of have a little meeting at the beginning. It seems like they're, I don't know who the guys were. Maybe they were just other, delegates that they gave some power to run certain parts of the family business. But they're having a meeting with these guys and kind of talking about, do they want to sell to Kansas City? Um, do they want to sell to the mafia? And of course, the the head son is like, of course not. There's no way. But the mom is like, we don't want to go to war. We've always been a peaceful family. So they said they'll let us keep running the business, but they want a piece of it. And you can tell it's kind of her dilemma right now. Like, she wants to keep peace. She doesn't want to go to war. But at the same time, she does agree with the oldest son that, this is their business. They don't want to sell it. And so it really is the dilemma that is hard for her to decide. And you've got the oldest son who doesn't want any of it. You have the middle son that's clearly just kissing up to her, just saying whatever she wants to hear. And then these guys that are the head, whoever they are, they don't really explain that very well. But they pretty much said, we're not going to strike first, but we'll help you if they do. If they attack first, we'll help you. So it's pretty much like, if you really want to try to start a war, we're not going to help you. We're not going to back you. But if they start the war, we'll be there and we'll fight right alongside you. And then they go in a little bit farther. Skip, the typewriter guy, he goes to find Rye at this hotel that Rye occasionally stays at, and the Indian that's helping Dodd, he gets Dodd's, I guess it's his oldest daughter. He said he has more daughters, but she's the only one we've seen. It's the blonde-haired girl, and he's like, where would Rye be? Where would he go into town? Where would he be if he wanted to do business? And so when Skip goes knocking on the door, it's the oldest daughter and the Indian waiting for him. And you can tell she's just kind of like this, I don't even know what the right word is. I don't want to be too offensive, but we'll use old people terms. She's a floozy. She's just very sexual about everything, and they have these characters on Fargo sometimes. It doesn't distract too much, I don't think, but you can like that's how she gets Skip to come in, is she just kind of seduces him inside, and then tries to get information about where Rye is. And when he doesn't say anything, they take him on a ride. At the end of the episode, Dodd shows up, smacks around the daughter a bit for, not really sure what. Like, I guess because he figured that she was just doing it to, to seduce the guy and try to have sex with him. But smacks her in the face and then throws her into the truck, slams the door on her like foot, and then keeps her in the truck. And the episode finally ends with, they put Skip into this hole and are pretty much saying, what do you know? And he says something about Mike Milligan and the fact that they were asking and maybe they have him. And Josh is like, you don't know anything. And then hot, I guess it was tar, covers him in it inside this hole. So that's the end of Skip. We're not gonna miss you, Skip. You're just the typewriter guy. As far as the Gerhardt family, there is one other scene that kind of does play into it a bit. You've got the middle son, whose name completely escapes me right now, of the Gerhardt family, and he has a son who he looks like he had an Indian mother because he's got the facial features of like a Native American. So you don't really know who the mother is in the scenario, but you know that the middle son is the father, because he's talking to him about, you got to go back to school. And the kid really seems like he wants in on the family business. He's talking about, do you really think you're going to sell out to the mafia? Do you really think you're going to sell out to these city guys? And he said, we're not really sure, but it sounds like your grandma wants to, just sell him half of it. And the kid has this really good line. He's like, they don't seem like the men that would only buy half a car. And it's like, that's very true, and very, like, you can tell this kid knows stuff. He's very intelligent for his age. He's got like a psychology book on the table, and just he's pretty well spoken too, compared to most of the family members. So you can tell that he knows stuff. He's very smart. He's very perceptive, and that line really does speak a lot to. That's how the mafia is. That's how these guys out of Kansas City. They're not gonna say, "Oh, okay, we'll just take half of the business." No, they want it all. So I thought that was it was very subtly thrown in too. Like if you weren't paying attention, you probably would have missed it. And that's a really good thing about the show is they know how to be subtle but still make a statement. So that's about it for the Gerhardt family. The final thing is obviously Peggy and Ed, the main couple of the show, I guess, the ones that have killed Rye and officially ground up his body. Peggy's kind of losing it. It's hard to tell if she is just really smart or really dumb or just panicking and making a bunch of decisions. She's at work, she's cutting somebody's hair, and Betsy, Lou's wife, is in there getting her hair cut too. And they finally confirm she does have cancer. She's talking about getting chemo, she's talking about just shaving her head so she won't have to lose her hair. So that was it was nice to know why she was in the hospital. It's not nice to know she has cancer, but they just kind of threw that scene in last week, and you're just like, why is she in the hospital? So now it's confirmed. That's why. But the woman from the end of last episode that was kind of like, oh, you're a bad girl, aren't you? Talking to Peggy and was acting really weird. She's cutting Betsy's hair, and so they're talking a bit. And Peggy's cutting another girl's hair. And so Hank comes in, Betsy's dad, and he's talking about what he just found out about, Rye Gerhardt being the killer. He's got flyers to put up, have you seen this man, with his picture on it. Talking about just, a little bit of information. And Betsy, I love this scene because we've already seen that Lou's a good cop. He's smart. He's not willing to just sit back and let somebody else have his case. If it's a case that he can see something's wrong with, he's going to go get it. And, this is thinking about Molly from the first season. If you haven't seen the first season, I'm making all these references to the first season. You got to go watch the first season. A lot ties into it, even though this is set in the past. You can still make comparisons to the first season. And that's where I could understand if you haven't seen the first season watching this and still being able to understand what's going on. But knowing the characters in the future and seeing these characters right now, it ties together a lot. And so, anyway, Hank comes in and starts, giving her this information, what they found out. And Betsy's like, I've been thinking, what if it was a hit and run? And of course, Peggy at this point just stops and just you can see her start to freak out a little bit. And by the way, I know I said something in the first review about Kirsten Dunst and how I was a little worried because of Spider-Man and MJ, Mary Jane, and all that. She really is a good actor. I think Mary Jane was just poorly written because she was kind of one of the main weaknesses of those movies. But it wasn't Kirsten Dunst, and you can tell in this series she does have acting chops. You just have to give her a well-written character for her to, be able to show that she can act. But you can see her start to freak out a little bit, but trying to hide it, trying to just keep going. And so Betsy, points out, you found glass, there's a shoe in a tree, you found skid marks, and the body's missing. So what if somebody hit him and just kept on driving? And of course, funniest part of the episode for me, Peggy stands up. She's like, "Now that just doesn't make any sense. Why would somebody hit them and then not notify anybody? They wouldn't just drive off with somebody in their windshield." And it's hysterical. That's exactly what she did. And she boldly stands up and just like, nobody would do that. And it cracked me up. I know it may not be that funny, but it was for me, just thinking about, what's going on in her mind. Like, that really doesn't make any sense. Why did I do that? But it does help her now, because it really doesn't make any sense why she did that. But anyway, that was a funny scene. And of course, Hank's like, you're right. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And Betsy's just like, I'm just saying that it does make sense if you think about it. And so, Peggy gets Ed from the meat shop and says, we got to deal with the car right now. There's a theory going around. And you can see all of this panic. She was hiding him in the barbershop. It's all coming out now. And she's like, we got to do something about the car. We got to hide the car. We got to, we got to deal with the car now. And flash forward a little bit, and she and Ed are in the car that she hit Rye with, and she, basically says, "Look, we gotta hit that tree. My dad used to do it all the time whenever he was drunk. He'd cause an accident. Insurance doesn't cover drunk accidents, so he'd sober up and then he'd drive into a tree and have them cover it." And getting a little bit of backstory on her, on her family. Maybe it will be important, maybe it won't. But that was nice to see us, a slight moment of, this is her. This is what it's her family. A little bit kind of. So Ed starts driving. She gets out of the car. He starts driving. Hits a spot of ice. Spins all the way around and rear ends the tree, and then they just cut to the tow truck. Like the tree is falling over and the tow truck's grabbing the car, and they don't even show him hitting the tree. And I thought that was pretty clever. She starts talking. Now, what are the chances that you would hit a spot of black ice, do a complete 180, and rear end the tree? And he said, well, I got it right the second time. So just clever writing again. Just they don't even have to show it. Just show him messing up the first time, talk about him, doing it right the second time. And that's pretty much where their story ends for this week. Is with them kind of dealing with the fact that, okay, that's why we have a hole in our windshield. We hit a tree. So I'm not really sure if that's clever or if it's just panic thinking. Like, it feels like second week, the decision to get rid of the body, it felt planned. It felt like, okay, how we get rid of the body? I work in a meat shop. I'll grind up the body. That felt planned. It felt like, what options do we have? That's our best option. This, it felt a little bit more panic and rush because, she heard Betsy giving this theory, and it's exactly what happened. And you're just, she starts freaking out, and she's like, well, we gotta deal with this somehow. Recalls what her dad did to cover up his drunk accidents, and so decides that's our best option. And it really doesn't make sense if you think about, there's a person-sized hole in your windshield. You got that from hitting a tree? Are you sure? So, again, this one doesn't make as much sense as last week, so I feel like the more the cops close in, the more facts they get, the more panicked and mistaken their decisions become. And that's what the first season had. Martin Freeman's character just, as they closed in more and more, he would make dumber and dumber decisions that just proved his guilt even more. And because the cops are dumb, except for Molly, they're not seeing it. She's the only one seeing it. Speaking of, I started talking. I do this all the time. I start talking about one thing, and then I just go on. I was talking about tying it into the first season of Fargo, getting to see Betsy make this deduction from all of these facts. it just really shows why Molly was such a good cop in the first season. You've got, I already talked about Lou, what a good cop he is, how driven he is. And then you've got Betsy, who's clearly very smart, piecing all of this information together. You wonder why she didn't become a cop. Um, but seeing she's got these two parents, it totally makes sense why she was such a good, hard driven cop in the first season. Because that's who her parents were. Um, so I've just really enjoyed getting to see where her character comes from. Getting to see her parents just doing stuff and doing their job, solving crimes. Uh, it's really nice to see kind of a bit of character development, I guess, from a young age. So, but that's about it for this week. There was a lot of stuff going on. I tried to summarize it as fast as possible. Still feels like this review went on forever. But anyway, uh, I think that's it for this review. I'm pretty busy tomorrow, Tuesday, so I don't know when I'll be able to watch Fargo. When I'll be able to watch Gotham. So it may be Wednesday before I finally get to it, because I've got two shows and a Chelsea game tomorrow. So, but I'll watch it as soon as I can, and I'll get that review out there. But until then, peace out.